Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Color Guard webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing our exciting underdeck product, UpSide Deck Sealing. And instead of watching Kyle and I in the studio trying to replicate a complete installation, we've got something pretty special for you. We're going to walk you through an actual video of an actual installation on a home in Virginia that was done by Friedman Construction. It's very, very cool. So today I am joined by Kyle, as always, and Troy. Troy is our UpSide expert here. You guys ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's go, man.
Okay, all right.
Excited
so
to be here.
Before I press play, just a reminder to everyone that we will have a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. You can ask questions by either clicking Q&A or posting them in chat. I will be monitoring both of those. All right, so let's get started. If anybody has any problem seeing the video, just let me know. So start off here. We've got the underdeck area, and it is all been prepared. There's nothing on it, so it's prepared to put the UpSide deck on. And then we start. Okay, start here. There's Evan, and they are putting up the quick install tracks. Guys, what's Evan doing here, and his friend? I mean, his
So the quick install track is really the foundation to our system. So what they're doing is installing that to the joist, and they're setting the pitch for the system to drain away from the house. 1/8 inch per foot is what we would like to see there. That's what we expect, and it's in our install instructions. And so the easiest way to go about this is by picking a spot, whether it's halfway down or one on each end, and installing one on the outside edge with the pitch, and then one more towards the center or to the opposite end with the pitch, and then as they're showing here, running a 4-foot or a 8-foot straight edge to continue to set that. So you drop it as we'll go forward here. They're going to clamp it to those, and then you'll drop each channel up against that, and that gives you a standard pitch.
Yeah, I thought this was actually like a real neat part of the installation, where it takes. I mean, because it's real easy. Dropping a line. And Troy, I think we were talking about this. Dropping a line is one way of doing this, but a line has a tendency to bend. If you can do this a section at a time, you've got a much better foundation.
Correct. I like using these are just 6-foot levels, and what happens is it helps with the actual flatness. Obviously, your the QITs, as Kyle was explaining, will take the variance out of the irregularities that you may run into with moving from joist to joist. So by utilizing the levels to keep level and flat will give you a much more predictable and aesthetically pleasing outcome.
Right, it'll give you a lot more seamless and smooth flow of your ceiling.
Right. And here that you're just popping them up there, and just real quick. I mean, this is a matter of minutes here, where they're just able to do this entire section.
Correct. And you'll notice Evan's just shooting that with a side nail gun, and all we're doing with this is just tacking it in place. We're still going back and setting our screws to the joist every 16 inches on center. But just tacking this in place like that gives you a stable thing to work on. You'll notice the levels that you're seeing on both ends. And now we're going to run a 4-footer this way, just to make sure that we don't need to push up or pull down on our QITs, and just keep that flat plane running.
Okay. All right. And how many guys are on this? This is a 3-man operation installing this, right?
Well, that's Chris at the wall and Evan down here, and the other person that you're going to see in the video that's cutting pieces and handing them is me. So it actually works. It actually works a little bit. It just flows easier if you can keep people on the ladder and you're not up and down. That's all.
Right. Right, right. Definitely a time saver, but still, I mean, something like this, even a three-man crew is an effective amount. Just you don't need
Oh,
you
sure.
need a full, you know, 5, 10 crew to do something like this. All right,
Correct.
and this the we talked about this too, near the Troy or Kyle. This
Mhm.
little piece of 2x4 that they have up there, that's just a shim that they made on site, just
Correct.
for pre-measuring.
Yeah, that's just simply a gauge block. It's just uh, a very good time saver, right? So
Yeah,
that keeps that distance from the top, from the bottom side of the deck board down
yeah,
on both ends, right? Obviously, you're starting up close to zero at the wall and then
right.
dropping it down on the other end down there. And on this particular one, if I'm not mistaken, we were running 12-foot channels. So we were cutting the ends off the channels, and you'll notice those QITs are full length. Those are 10 feet long.
Okay.
And they're not installed right up to the ledger board, so you can go about 4 inches off the ledger board and then begin installing, because you're not going to have a starter strip, which is the next product in the sequence of the installation here. You won't have one right at the ledger board. There's no need for
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Good point, Con.
Yeah. So I do want to address one thing. We've gotten one question already, and person asked if we were going to share a recording of this later on. Yes, we are. I will be sending something out in the coming days with just, that you can share this video with other people. So thank you for that question. All right, so we're continuing with the quick install track here. This is going up. One thing I wanted to talk about here is this flashing that's in the background. I don't know if you can see this. I'll pause it for a second right here. No, I never tried this. Nope. All right. So this flashing, we were talking about this, it has to extend a certain distance, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to recommend a minimum of 8 inches out away from the house. And Evan and Chris had previously been here, sealed this off. So that flashing is tucked in up under the siding above the deck, and it's sealed off above that ledger board. So you're not going to have water running down behind that ledger board. Obviously, a really big issue is getting this thing sealed and ready for the installation of our system.
Right. Because yeah, you definitely don't want that to go behind those boards there, because then it's going behind the siding and it's a whole mess. Yeah. All right. So this is, yeah.
So flashing is really the most important prep thing you can do that we require before installing our system. That's one of the key things to making this system work and to keeping water from going down your wall or going anywhere outside of the system, is that flashing right at the ledger board.
Okay. And then this part right here, this is the I'm sorry, I lost this in my notes. What are they installing here?
That's a starter strip.
That's a starter strip. Okay.
Correct. That is a 10-foot long piece of material, akin to an old Hot Wheels track almost, right? And that's part of the skeleton of our system that handles and secures our glide clips in place, which secure the channels.
Okay.
So you'll see them being attached to the bottoms of the QITs.
Okay.
And you'll notice on this right end over here, Eric, where we're going to cut that splice, and that's what we're doing here.
Okay.
Just simply cutting some QIT pieces to allow us to butt join the starter strips and continue that run.
Okay. All right. Now I was going to ask, it's like, because these are 10 feet, it's like, well, this is obviously longer than 10 feet, what we're going to do, what that is. So you just butt those together and
then run a screw through that small piece that he just cut up.
Okay. All right, perfect. Okay. And then we continue with those.
Correct. Those will be run approximately 16 inches on center apart from each other. Okay. So the first one that goes up at the wall is typically about 4 inches off the wall.
Okay.
Makes for easy installation. And then from that point, we go approximately 16 inches on center to the end of the QITs. And then I typically will stop those QITs where they are about 12 to 16 inches before we reach the gutter.
Okay.
Because remember that QIT is it's 10 feet long for ease of assembly, but there's, in between the attachment points of the starter strip, it's not serving a purpose. Okay.
Right.
So even if you have small pieces, you can put those where they need to be and make it efficient.
Okay. All right. And here you're stripping down or cutting down the first one.
That's the initial channel that fits into the edge trim on the first piece. Correct.
Okay. All right. So one thing we were talking about earlier is what these rated for wind. At 16, wasn't it like 100 miles an hour?
Correct. And that is, if you'll notice in that particular shot, you'll see how the ledger board on the outside edge hangs down, the fascia board, if you will. And that will keep the system totally encapsulated. So you're not going to have wind and you're not going to have an open end as the pitch continues to drop until you get to the outside edge. Okay. But yes, at 16 inches on center, that's going to give us in excess of 100-mile-an-hour wind load through those that downforce of wind through there. Correct.
Okay. All right. So I mean, some people do like to put it at what, like 12 inches? Does that give you more?
It definitely stiffens that when we're doing jobs, several jobs we've done, Outer Banks, waterfront, Holden Beach, Ocean Isle. If I get waterfront jobs totally exposed, Tidewater area in Virginia, a lot of times we'll take these, instead of running them at 16 on center where you're seeing the spacing on these starter strips, we'll move them into around 12 and it'll stiffen it significantly. I don't have what that actual number is, but it does stiffen it considerably.
Okay.
Okay, so now what he's done is, if you want to pause it just for a second.
Oh, sure. Yes, pausing it. Okay.
So what he was cutting before, it was the edge trim. Okay, and the edge trim is going to go along both of the outside edges, and that's really going to help give it a clean finished look. All right.
Okay. And that's
so,
right there. Yeah.
Yep. So he's got the edge trims cut and mounted to that outside, either the joist or that trim board, depending on where your ceiling ends up. And there's a calculation on the back page of our instructions that tells you how to figure out the width of the start and finish channels, since we don't start or finish on a full channel with our system. There's a mathematical equation. It's actually pretty straightforward. We walk you through and we give you an example on how to figure it out as well. Once you figure that out, even if you're off by a little bit, the nice thing about that edge trim is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room there. So you don't have to, if your cut isn't precisely perfect, that's okay, because the edge trim will still accept that channel and conceal that cut edge. So as long as you're engaging with those little flexible PVC feet that are inside of there, giving that grip and that seal, you're just fine.
Okay.
Almost akin to a weather strip, and Kyle's straight on that. So that's a 1 inch. You've got 1 inch on either side to work with for variance into that edge trim on either side.
Okay. And then what with the clips they're putting on here, they're just putting them all on at once and then sliding them into place when they need them, correct?
Right. So those are called glide clips, and they do exactly what they're called. They glide. So you can put them on all in one spot and just move them right into place when you're ready to install the next channel. Very easy to install.
Okay. All right. And and here's the first piece, not the first piece, the first full piece going on. And so you put this up and then it clips in, and then you slide those pieces, those glide clips into place.
Correct. Yep. So whatever with our system, what doesn't screw together clicks together. You'll hear an audible click between the channels joining each other and between the channels going into those glide clips to know that it's installed properly.
Yeah. I unfortunately cut the sound out of this video so that it would play a little easier.
Right.
And, you know, there's music in the background, and not every construction site is G-rated when it comes to the
Absolutely.
dialogue. All right, but as you can see, it's going on. I mean, everything's just sliding right into place and then clicking into place. And then, Troy, you're coming in with the next piece. This is the benefit of having a 3-person crew. You have the 2 people on the ladders, 1 person cutting things down to size.
It really is having 3 men when you get, especially when you get to this point, but even notably when you're installing the starter strips up. But as I have a stop out there, by the time that I go back, get another piece, wipe it down, put it in the stop, get it ready to get it cut, chop that end and come back in, these guys are ready for me. So pretty cool.
Okay. All right. And this is, I mean, again, this is all one day. This is not a multi-day job.
Right. Now the flashing they had done and the prep work they had done before, but
Right.
I think we actually started. I don't know if Evan or Chris are on, but I think we actually started around 9:30 and we were done 3 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because once you start getting into this spot here, I've sped this up because you can only watch this for so long before
Right.
you start going a little crazy. But yeah. So yes, this part right here, where they're putting in the C channel.
That's
correct.
the C. Correct.
Yeah. So this one goes in really easy, and then the next one, it wasn't. The boards were a little too close. There's when you talk about that wiggle room, there's like, you can have up to, what's the distance you can have from the wall to the edge of that channel? Like, I'm sorry, how much will it cover up?
So you've got about a 1/4 inch there, but you'll want to have, when you go to install those, and it's not anything they did wrong here. It's just I would have approached it maybe just a little bit differently, but they had, so those C channels are 10 feet long,
Right.
like most of the components in this system. So they had most of that 10 feet width of channels installed already. I do about half of that. So I do about 5 feet and then slide that in. And that way, when you're installing the channels, you can put it right into that edge trim.
Right.
And that way you're not trying to force it or push it down the whole width of the 10-foot ceiling there. So
yeah,
that's maybe the only thing I would have done differently, but otherwise they did very well with that.
Yeah. This is that part where it kind of gets stuck here. But the other thing is, you may have noticed, I'm just going to go back for just 1 second here. These starter strips, they're not always straight, and they don't have to be. And that's part of the forgiveness of this platform. Troy, talk a little bit about that. You don't have to have them straight. It's good to have them as straight as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, that, there's some factor where you may have, because it's such a flexible item with that starter strip, it may turn a little one way or the other. I like having them as straight as you can get them. And a lot of times it's just, just snapping a line. Once you get your QITs out, just snap a line every 16 OC, and then, just run it either to the edge or down the center, however you want to do it. That'll help keep those things pretty much on that plane that you're looking for.
Right. Right.
And this is where, we could have held those off away from the wall and tapped them back to this C channel a little more and made it a touch easier. So, yeah.
But I think that, the one point I wanted to make with this and leaving this in here is that while it appears to be difficult, it's still, we've all been on job sites where we've looked at something and went, oh crap, now what? This is you can get through this, and it's still forgiving.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just a minor tweak to their installation method, and you know, nothing with the product or anything like that. Just
Yeah.
before you while you're putting the channels in, just have them off the wall a quarter to a half an inch, and they'll be just fine.
Yeah. And now this is the strip, right?
Yep, that's the edge trim on the
Okay.
on the final side of the installation. They're fastening that into place, and then they're gonna rip their final channel, and that'll complete the install right there.
All right.
Between the C channel and the edge trim, that really gives it the finished look of a beadboard ceiling.
Okay. So I've never had this happen during a webinar before, but we have somebody who's raised their hand. And I'm going to attempt to turn their microphone on, Matthew Imes, to allow them to talk. We're going to try this out.
Awesome. Hey, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew. You're on the air. Well, we tried.
Matt, can you unmute yourself?
There he is. Okay. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. You got a question for the guys?
I don't right now. No, I'm just taking it all in. I was asking about the video after the session because I want to show my installers. I'm not the one actually installing it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, like I said, we will be sending this out to everybody. So thank you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you back on mute. We're going to wrap things up here in a second. Okay. And sorry, back to this. Now they're snapping that last piece in.
Yep. So they rip their channel, and they've got it inserted into the edge trim. And they're snapping it into place against the last full channel on that end.
Okay. All right. And this is they're done. Well, they've got other things to do, obviously, but this is
Right.
You know, this part of the project is done. We do have a few photos at the end here of, you know, what it looks like, and it really brightens that area up. That's what I think is neat, because you start off and it's really dark underneath there, but as they're finishing up working, that light reflects off the top of that, and it really brightens that area up, even without any lights under there.
Absolutely. And even though it doesn't look finished here, we provide everything but the gutter. So a third-party gutter system will need to be installed on that yet.
Right.
But it really, compared to plain open joist, that definitely gives it a nice finished look underneath there, a professional finished look.
Right. Okay, so we do have a couple questions here, and again, everyone, you can ask a question by typing it in chat or clicking Q&A. I will try to get to as many of them as possible. First one, okay, so you mentioned there are a number of ways to do flashing. Can you provide some examples? Troy, you had sent me some pictures the other day of flashing, right?
I did.
Here, let me see if I can find those.
Well, what I like to see, you know, at 16 inches on center, which typically most of our joists will run, a lot of times now with these more expensive PVC decks, to get it to give you the, I guess, the least amount of flexibility, a lot of times now you'll see some things wrong 12-inch centers. But well, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going? Oh, there you go. So
yeah,
at 14 and it's 14 and a half in between there. Tucking, this is a coastal job, so you're seeing that done in copper, and that's the only reason. It's not, obviously not a specification or any means, but you see how we've got that sealed off against the joist and kicking out. So this is something in addition to that flashing that you'll see that was done that Chris and Evan had done on that other job. And you'll see how this was tucked back in up under that deck board, sealed off to the joist, kicking that water down into the system to keep it from running down, obviously down that ledger board.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's another photo there with the guys from Hammerheads down in Anderson, South Carolina here. Flashing that's run across the back there. And this particular group, you'll see how that flashing's done and sealed off to the joist. They actually flash their jobs at the house on the edges and the backside at the gutter. I mean, that's just a personal, that's their personal preference. The most difficult thing with installing our system has nothing to do with installing our system, right? It has to do with getting it flashed.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing that. Got another question here. Getting back to the C channel, can we install the C channel first, the entire length of the wall, then slide in the panels?
Well, I'll jump in there. That our C channel is not mechanically attached to the structure. Okay.
It's a friction fit to the end of the panels. Yep.
Yeah. So there's no need to attach that directly to the structure and have another penetration. If you'll notice how all the flashing kicks that water out into the system. So we're dropping our pitch 1 inch over, minimally 1 inch over 8 feet. Getting that water out into that system takes it away. That's simply the finished edge, if you will.
And I will note that as with any water drainage system, the less holes you put into it, the better. The less opportunity you have for leaking. Now, with that being said, there are exceptions to that, which we'll probably get to in just a minute here. But yeah, there's really no need to put excess holes into the C channel to attach it to the wall. It's a friction fit onto the channels, and it's just not necessary.
Okay. All right. So we have a couple questions here about the channels. What do you do when you need to put a seam in the channel because it's not long enough?
So right now, the longest channel that we offer standard is a 16-foot channel. And let's just say, for example, you've got a 20 or a 24 inch or a 24-foot deck. You'll need to find a break in there. So most of the time, on a deck that's that long, there's going to be a beam or a cantilever type of situation there. You can usually use that as a break. So you'd run from the house to that beam and gutter it, and then you can run it from the outside to that beam and gutter it, or you can run from the beam to the outside, however it fits your application. But you've got several options there. But we don't have a transition piece to extend our channels at this time.
Okay. All right. On the last channel, how do you cut short to make it an easier fit?
Basically using the mathematical equation that's on the back page of the instructions, that's how you'll figure out your start and finish width. You can, once you get to the end, if you found that you maybe figured that that's going to be like a half inch too long or something along those lines, you can certainly trim that off. You can cut it just a hair shorter width-wise in order to fit it in there, but I wouldn't recommend cutting too much off. Again, there is some, like Troy and I mentioned before, there's an inch give or take in there, but you don't want to challenge that too much.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna throw in something on that. It's what Kyle was talking about, and we like to have that. We talk about length and we talk about width, and when we talk about length, then meaning projection and how the channels are running, and we're going to have these channels laying about halfway into that gutter system, and recommending that we don't use anything less than a 5-inch on the gutter system, because that tends to be a lot of water on these. So you want to be able to carry that. And what we don't have, because we can't control which end of these channels are going to get cut, there is no drip edge, if you will, on these channels. So what I recommend is about an inch back from that finished edge where it's cut. to simply run a clear silicone bead of caulk right along the bottom of the face. That will keep that water as it comes down the channel and it gets to the gutter from weeping and wicking back past the gutter. It'll keep that water contained.
Okay.
Great point, Troy. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. What options have you used to allow lighting or fans in the ceiling?
I knew somebody was going to ask that question.
Yep. Yep.
That's a great question.
Troy, you want to take that one?
I can. I don't think I shared any photos with Eric. I can.
You sent here. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find something as you start talking here.
One of the easiest ways, because what we're going to recommend is that when you cut a penetration, remembering that our channels are 6 inches wide. Okay, I would like to not see a penetration that's cut bigger than 4, and I like it centered over that bead, so I've got at least an inch on either side while that channel's locking in, and it gives it secure. And for most of the people out there, if you haven't held or felt our channels, they're 062, so these are not flimsy pieces of material. They've got structure to them. Okay. Much along this, and this is a job down in 96 South Carolina. You'll notice this penetration here for a fan installation. What our guys will do in a lot of instances is, I think we sent these just to show flatness, but you can pick up these sliding fan mounting bars at Home Depot for around $12. And remembering that in most of these instances, let's just say this is a 16-foot projection. I don't remember if it's 12 or 16, but most of these fans are going to be halfway. So if that's 16-foot projection, I know that fan's about 8 feet away from the wall. I'm already going to be figuring a minimum of 1 inch below the joist. Okay. And then I've got to center that left or right. I may need to move that left or right incrementally to get that centered within my channel. So that's a really good, easy way to do it. But you can always block down, mount your boxes, and we do it all the time. The biggest recommendation I'm going to have is just center that within one of our 6-inch channels, and you're not going to have any issues. Install that as you're going across, and that way you can seal it above. You got access to it above and below. Seal it right in. You're not going to have issues.
Right. And I don't think it was these pictures. Hold on. Some of the earlier ones. Let me just close this out here, and then I'll share that one again. With the guys working there, you can see the wiring going in there. Yeah.
Now, Troy, you've got some LED lighting that you recommend, or that you use quite frequently as well, right?
I do. People have access to, there's so many good lighting options and this, that, and the other. And, putting these boxes in and hard mounting boxes is obviously a great way, and a way that's been done for years and years. I tend to lean on a company called Aspect LED, not meaning to be a plug for them, but that they're a good resource for everywhere from 2.5 inch to 4 inch, really lightweight for wet areas, waterproof LEDs that simply have small, they're so lightweight, you can run your Romax cable back there, set them in, have your penetration, seal them up as you're going, and it's a really friendly installation.
Okay.
There's several manufacturers that provide that same style and type of LED. So
okay, and we can send that out when we send the link to this video after it's been uploaded. Again, though, they're not, we're not advocating that you go with them. It would just be an example of what is out there. No kickbacks.
lot of good opportunities on that, but just
Yeah.
search just a little bit and don't take
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
thing you see that's on a rack. So
Right. But if you were going to wire in there, you can definitely run. I mean, like I said, in this photo here, you can see the wire being run in here. I don't know what it's for, but you know, if you blocked off a ceiling fan up here and put one of those mounts that you were talking about, that would definitely, you know, do the trick.
absolutely, absolutely. And on this particular job was on a golf course down in 96 South Carolina, and as you're doing this, I mean, obviously there was no decking installed yet, so a little bit easier to manipulate and work around the area because the deck is not installed.
Right.
A great feature with our system is the fact that it can be done, I'm gonna say as an afterthought, but after, you know, coming back in and retrofitting an existing deck and putting our system in under that existing installed deck is quite simple.
Okay. All right. So almost all of the questions that we got were about lighting and fans. So we do have one more. If anybody else has any questions, now's your chance to get them in. What's the best way to flash a dropped beam that's in the middle of the deck?
You know, typically what I'll do is try to get up above that and flash it on both sides. And as Kyle alluded to earlier, when we talk about not having at this point in our portfolio of products to offer a way to butt join ours. And typically with conventional treated lumber frame, we'll run about 16 feet to a double or triple beam. And then so I will typically flash both sides of that beam, just get right up at the top, flash it left and right, kick it off both sides of that beam, kick it back into this side so that it's going to kick back into the system and then run into the gutter, and then first the same thing on the other side.
Okay.
I hope that had some clarification. It made sense in my mind anyway, Eric.
All right. Well, you know, the nice thing about you guys is that you're always available on the website. There are two websites that we can refer to on this one, actually, because we've got the color guard railing.com, but there is also the UpSide by colorguard.com. I'm just going to throw that. Oh, wait, I'm not sharing that window anymore.
Which is an awesome website, guys. It's an awesome website. You can do a materials takeoff right on your cell phone.
That's
really
one thing
cool
I wanted to know is some of the tools that we have available to you. We've got under our resources tab, we've got a calculator that'll help you do a takeoff, and you can take that to your dealer, your distributor for pricing. I'm sorry, we have a separate tab for the calculator, but under the resources tab, which is what I was trying to hit on, we've got CAD files available as well as our install instructions, but we've got CAD files available on CAD details in case you want to spec something, and also our testing results for our wind load. So I know a lot of people are looking for that as far as code installations, and that's all available right on our resources tab.
Yeah. Plus the fun stuff, the photos of installations that have been done before. That's always, you know, people love to see the before and after pictures, and people love to get inspirations for what they can do underneath their deck once everything is all installed. And that's all here on the website. And you mentioned the calculator, you know, you can choose the amount of areas you have, what color you want, and then go from there. It is
awesome.
All right. That's it. That's all we got, guys. We'll be sending out an email early next week with a link to the video, as well as a link to this website and some other information that was presented here today. Thank you very much for your time, Troy, Kyle. Thank you as always. It's a pleasure talking to you guys. This was a lot of fun.